Good evening, my moles. Welcome back to Tapes of the Lost. Some creatures are born of fire, others of famine. Tonight, we descend into forests where the wind carries hunger, and the skies once brought something far worse than rain. Welcome to the cryptids that still breathe fear into Appalachia.
It starts with hunger. Not ordinary hunger, but a bottomless, freezing gnawing in the soul. That's the Wendigo. In the cold forests of the northern United States and Canada, long before European settlers arrived, the Algonquian peoples spoke of a spirit born of starvation. It had no true form, only functions: hunger, greed, possession. Over time, its shape crystallized into a towering figure, gaunt, skeletal, with antlers or ice-crusted features. The Wendigo was said to be human once, but it consumed human flesh, and in doing so, became something else. The Wendigo cannot be full. That's the curse. The more it eats, the more it wants. And when it walks the woods, it leaves behind silence and the missing. Trees fall quiet, animals vanish. Even the wind seems to hold its breath. In winter, its footsteps are said to sound like cracking ice, and its breath freezes in long streams, trailing behind it like mist. Hunters tell of a feeling, an ancient dread, that presses against your spine when you know something is watching, but you can't quite see it. One of the most chilling real-world cases tied to this legend is that of Swift Runner in 1878. He was a Cree man, a former scout for the Canadian Mounted Police. During a brutal winter, his family disappeared. When authorities finally reached his cabin, they found bones, cracked open for marrow. He confessed to killing and eating his wife and children, but what haunted the court was what he said: "A Wendigo got inside me." He wasn't the first to say it, and he wouldn't be the last. Swift Runner was executed, but the legend he invoked only grew stronger. Psychologists have studied this under what they call Wendigo psychosis, a rare and disputed condition marked by intense cravings for human flesh, often accompanied by paranoia and hallucinations. The medical field largely abandoned the term, but ask the locals, especially the elders in isolated communities, and they'll tell you it's real, just not in the way you think. To them, the Wendigo isn't just a myth, it's a moral code, a warning against selfishness, greed, and forgetting the community. During harsh winters when food ran low, the temptation to survive at the expense of others was real. The Wendigo, they say, is what happens when you give in. Modern sightings persist, especially near dense forests in Ontario, Minnesota, and North Dakota. Witnesses describe tall, bony figures with glowing eyes that vanish between trees. Some report guttural screams that don't sound animal or human. Hunters have gone missing in areas rumored to be Wendigo territory. Only their boots or rifles ever found again. Others have reported finding claw marks carved deep into trees, too high and too wide to be from any known animal. Cryptozoologists have long drawn comparisons between the Wendigo and skinwalkers, both entities that represent transformation through taboo. But where skinwalkers are rooted in Navajo tradition and connected to witches, the Wendigo is colder, older, and more singular in its obsession: hunger. In popular culture, the Wendigo appears again and again. Horror games, TV series, comic books, but rarely is the creature given its full weight, the tragedy behind the terror. Because beneath the claws and fangs is a once human soul, a person who crossed a line they couldn't return from. And once the Wendigo takes root, there's no going back. And then there are the testimonies that don't make the news. from ice fishers in northern Manitoba who've heard their names whispered in the night, to loggers in Michigan who've seen massive footprints leading into forests no one dares to enter, to families who've reported missing persons only to find their clothing neatly folded beneath clawed branches. In 2003, a forest ranger in Ontario anonymously reported a creature sighting after dark. He was patrolling a firebreak trail when he spotted a figure nearly 10 feet tall, watching from the tree line. It had the frame of a man, but the limbs were too long, jointed wrong. Its head tilted back like it was smelling the air. Then it ran, not away, but deeper in. He never worked that section again. Another account, rarely talked about, came from a snowplow driver in rural Minnesota in 1986. After a severe blizzard, he reported seeing a naked figure crouched in the snow, its bones visible beneath skin so tight it looked torn. It was eating something. When he passed again 30 minutes later, the thing, and whatever it had been eating, were gone. Just drag marks in the snow. No one investigated. Why? Because by then locals already knew what it was, or at least what not to call it. You see, the Wendigo isn't a creature you hunt, or capture, or even document. It's a spirit of desperation, a shadow that waits until the frost creeps in and the cupboards run dry. It doesn't need you to believe, only to forget the rules, to wander too far, to be just hungry enough, to understand. Because that's when it finds you. And when the first scream echoes through the trees, it's already too late. September 12th, 1952. The town of Flatwoods, West Virginia, was quiet until something fell from the sky. It was just after 7 p.m. when several boys playing on a school field saw a fiery object streak across the sky and crash into the nearby hills. Thinking it might be a meteorite, they ran to investigate. But what they found that night would put Flatwoods on the map and burn its name into the annals of American UFO lore. The group included 2 brothers, Edward and Fred May, and their friend Tommy Heyer. They told their mother, Kathleen May, who joined them along with a local guardsman and 2 other boys. Armed with a flashlight, they climbed the hill toward the crash site. They never found a crater. What they found was something else. In the woods stood a towering figure, estimated at 10 feet tall. It had a spade-shaped glowing red head. Its body, dark and metallic, seemed mechanical. Some said it floated or glided. Its eyes, piercing and round, shone with an unearthly light. And then came the smell, pungent, metallic, choking. Suddenly, the creature emitted a hissing noise and released a cloud of gas. The group fled in terror. Over the next few hours, witnesses reported nausea, skin irritation, and a strange burning sensation in their throats. Many of them were examined by doctors who recorded these symptoms but couldn't explain them. Some researchers later suggested these were signs of exposure to radiation. The media dubbed it the Flatwoods Monster. The locals began calling it the Braxton County Green Monster. It was investigated by Project Blue Book, the U.S. government's official UFO inquiry, but no solid answers were ever found. Skeptics say it was a barn owl perched on a tree, lit strangely by flashlight beams, made terrifying by panic. The hissing, they say, came from startled wildlife. The gas? Maybe just swamp fumes. But those who were there say otherwise. They saw something real. And in the decades since, others have claimed to see glowing red-eyed figures in the woods. Always tall, always silent, and always watching. But the incident didn't end that night. In the days that followed, local reports continued to surface. Strange smells, mechanical humming in the woods, and sightings of tall figures just beyond the tree line. The National Guard was quietly dispatched to investigate, though little was officially released. What they found, or didn't find, was never made public. Kathleen May described the creature in chilling detail. Its head was shaped like an ace of spades. There was a hood-like shape around it, and its eyes were orange and glowing. It made a whirring sound, and then it hissed. That hiss wasn't just sound. The grass beneath where the creature hovered was burned in a perfect circle. Soil samples sent to scientists came back inconclusive, but some investigators noted elevated radiation levels. Over time, researchers pieced together other strange anomalies from that night. One boy suffered from throat inflammation for weeks. Others had recurring nightmares. One even left town, refusing to talk about what he saw ever again. Project Blue Book's eventual conclusion? Misidentification, mass hysteria. But ufologists weren't convinced. They point to the consistency of the witness descriptions, the physiological effects, and the government's quick and quiet involvement. They also note how quickly the story was scrubbed from major headlines. What happened in Flatwoods, they argue, wasn't just a case of mistaken identity. It was a contact event, one buried beneath ridicule and rural stereotyping. In Flatwoods today, you can find a museum dedicated to the creature, statues, merch, even festivals. But behind the smiles and novelty, the people there haven't forgotten what really happened. And on quiet nights, some still say they hear the hissing, the smell of metal, the soft glow of red eyes from the edge of the woods. Not just a cryptid, not just a monster, but a warning that sometimes what crashes from the sky doesn't leave. West Virginia isn't just home to the Flatwoods Monster. It's one of the most haunted, folklore-heavy, cryptid-crawling regions in the United States. There's a reason locals say the woods have eyes, and maybe worse. The most famous of these creatures is the Mothman, a winged, red-eyed being spotted multiple times in Point Pleasant during the 1960s. Eyewitnesses described a creature 6 to 7 feet tall, humanoid, but with giant wings and eyes that glowed like brake lights. It would appear suddenly, chase cars, and vanish without a sound. Then came the bridge collapse. In December 1967, the Silver Bridge connecting Point Pleasant to Ohio suddenly failed, sending 46 people to their deaths in the icy river below. After that, the sightings stopped. Many believe the Mothman was a harbinger, a warning of disaster. Since then, similar figures have been seen before other tragedies, from Chernobyl to 9/11. Then there's the Grafton Monster. Spotted near the town of Grafton in 1964, this cryptid. Why are these legends, these monsters, so persistent? One theory is psychological. In isolated areas where fear and folklore are passed down like heirlooms, the human mind can blur the line between memory and myth. But another theory suggests something far more chilling, that these creatures are manifestations, born not just from fear, but from trauma. The Wendigo emerged during times of starvation, colonial expansion, and environmental destruction. It was more than a monster. It was a warning, a symbol of what happens when humanity loses its balance with nature, when greed devours compassion. The Flatwoods Monster appeared at the height of Cold War paranoia, a glowing, silent figure from the sky. Was it a being? A craft? Or just fear made flesh by a generation living under the shadow of nuclear annihilation? And West Virginia? It's more than geography, it's history. It's the coal mines, the poverty, the forgotten towns. It's a place where the past bleeds into the present, and where silence doesn't mean safety. Maybe the Mothman, the sheep squatch, the Grafton Monster. They're all fragments of something larger, echoes of trauma, symbols of impending collapse, spirits watching over lands that have been taken, poisoned, and left behind. Or maybe they're just there, waiting. Always have been.
Greetings, mortals. Fear doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it has wings, or antlers, or a spade-shaped glow. From the frost-bitten silence of the north to the dark woods of Appalachia, there are things still roaming that no science explains.